Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Mean Green Nation podcast. Welcome to it. With me, as usual during football season, is Mr. Aldo Avina, who is in shadow right now. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is how he talks to me all the time. It's always shadowy kind of comments, and if you're wondering why, I'm like, oh, I don't know. If does he like this? He looked like if he turned around, he'd be like, the Claw, Mr. Claw, was it from Inspector Gadget?
I just enjoy the darkness.
Yeah. Next time, Seth Luttrell. Next time.
Well
Kind of a weird lead up to this episode, right? Today was the spring game, and I'm not 19 anymore, so I'm not super hyped about the spring game. It's a way you can see some football after a long off season, and not seeing football, so you kind of see it again. You get excited. There's a lot of good about it. I'm not saying don't go to it or whatever. But my kid had a performance today, so I went to that, and anything to do with that. And we were going to record this one about an hour ago, but MGN HQ got was in a tornado warning. And it got super dark all of a sudden. Like everything got real eerie. It was like a movie. And so I was like, all right, well, everybody go down to the basement. So I was down in the basement for a little bit. And so, once all that passed, I think we're technically still under a watch, but I'm doing it for you, ladies and gentlemen. Um, I was like, all right, let's get up into it. The show must go on. So if it looks like I'm not prepared, like I don't have like a green hat or anything cool about it, that's why. It's because I just literally came up from the basement. Uh,
Crawled up through the debris,
yeah.
speaking
Can you
to America.
Yeah, can you keep your wailing and gnashing of teeth a little quieter? I'm about to record. No, everybody's in the immediate area is fine. Like the neighborhood's fine. Nobody got affected by it. I think there's some damage sort of east of us, and that's typical of like this area. Like this actual city center doesn't really get hit too hard, but like the areas around it. So the usual, hope everybody's all right, right? And we'll see what's up. I got a text the guys in my rec league is like, hey, do we know when they're gonna announce if the game's on tomorrow? Probably when the weather emergency's over and everybody's safe and all that other good stuff. There's like a few things you gotta go through before you're like, all right, rec leagues canceled, or whatever.
I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind
Yeah.
after a tornado comes through here. I'm like, oh, is the game still on? You
Hey,
guys
are
still good?
we still gonna get that little softball game going? So anyway, that's what's up. All right, so it's football season. We're putting basketball sort of aside. There's still stuff happening right now, like Tyler Perry's, getting wined and dined by like, Arkansas or whoever. One of my friends, good, friend of the podcast, he's a North Texas alum, but he's a big fan of Arkansas. He grew up in Arkansas. He was like, "Oh, that'd be great." He just keeps texting me stuff about Tyler Perry at Arkansas, and I gotta say, I don't care. I mean, it's good for Tyler Perry by himself, but I'm not really thinking about Arkansas as our roster or whatever. I mean, so, if hopefully he goes there and not to like I don't know Oklahoma or something. We got too many Oklahoma ties, like University of Oklahoma ties, with this university as it is. You know, that's a
Well,
big
good for him.
thunder
Yeah.
roll.
It would be fun. My in-laws are big Arkansas fans, and it'd be fun to watch them to play there. They're actually pretty good in the SEC, aren't they? They
Yeah, I mean, they made what the Sweet 16 this year, right? So like it'd be good. They add a shooter. Um, you know, the coach is fun. It'd be a good time, right? I think that'd be good if you're gonna transfer for your graduate season. I say do it that way. Go up there and do that.
Yeah, it's pretty up there.
Yeah, it really is. Like driving through, especially that northern Arkansas area. Driving through there on my way to MGN HQ, and you know, I was like, man, it's real nice up here, huh? Sure is pretty. Um, so again, one top of the hour shout out to MGN member Chris. He sent over this mic. I think he got tired of seeing me with the other mic doing one of these right here. Like, I was like talking on it and like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I can't, I don't like that. I'm gonna send you a mic with the setup so that way you can record. I don't have the pop filter on it because I just didn't bring it out. And like I said, tornado, right? Like in the
Well,
preparation time, I had to go hide. You know,
now you can hold that instead of the microphone, the pop
yeah,
filter.
it's still in the packaging here, so I just hold it. Yeah. I actually, like I said, I have another one, but it didn't. It didn't. Anyway, so shout if it sounds different, that's what it is. Shout out to him, for that good stuff. We appreciate it. We said we are gonna use it. We didn't use it last week. We'd use it this week because last week I got back from Vegas, didn't have time to do all the stuff. So you know, getting back into it. Where you been, man? What you been doing? What do you do when basketball season? You just go back and I imagine you like walk the earth. So
I
it happens.
just sit here until you text me and say you wanna chat. I'm like, oh
His
yeah,
eyes open up. Yeah,
sure.
yeah. The Aldo chatbot. It's,
Yep.
yeah.
Just
This
sit here.
first, he's got a prompt like, "Hey, would you like to podcast?" And he opens his eyes up.
Yes, yes, I would.
Coming online. Dee, 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 dee. Yeah. So, it's our first look at the Eric Morris team, and the team's gonna be interesting, right? They're gonna throw the ball around. They're gonna have some interesting stuff, but we'll get closer to that because they're not gonna show any super amazing things right now, right? And we've sort of been an air raid team before, so that's like it's not a big change for North Texas fans, like long term North Texas fans. In Mean Green Nation, you can kind of search some air raid stuff and some South Latrell stuff from the early days. But if you want like some quick kind of clips, you can look at Washington State, sure. But you can look at like Louisiana Tech, right? They did a lot of the same stuff when we previewed Louisiana Tech. You can see a lot of the stuff they do. They play with tempo. Like even like Western Kentucky, they have a lot of that stuff. Like Kitley, and Morris, and they all kind of have a connection. They all kind of feed off each other. It's like a family. A lot of similarities in what everybody does. So we'll get into that soon. I think that's like the overall picture. Right now we're like, do we have a quarterback? Do we have a guy that's gonna pull the trigger and throw it to him? I know everybody likes Rogers. He's probably going to be the guy. He's the guy that brought in. They brought in. I think there's still a possibility might be somebody else, but he brings a little versatility. Can run the ball, a little bit. But for me, that's great. You can run a little bit, but can you put the ball, you know, in the guy's hands in the scoring position? Can you put it right here on the fingertips? You know what I mean? That's what we need. And like I don't care how far you can throw it, because it just means you might miss the guy wide open by a lot of yards. Like instead of overthrowing him by 10 yards, you overthrew him by 20. You know what I mean? Like that. Can you put it where it needs to be? That's what I care about. What questions are you thinking about in this springtime?
Uh, Wide receivers and running backs. What do we got going on there? That's what I want to see. We have new quarterbacks coming in, but is there going to be somebody that's going to step up? Um, that's going to take over. We saw Jamori Macklin last year, shorter when he wasn't hurt. He was awesome. Uh, what we've got to have a dominant receiving core in order to be successful. And I know our running backs are good. We've seen that the last couple of seasons, but uh, feel bad for Oscar Attaway getting hurt so much. Um, when who else is going to be there to take the big guy lead, the big guy role?
Yeah, I think we're gonna be a lot more dynamic, and it's kind of a weird thing to say, right? North Texas averaged like 450 yards a game last year, right? With under the Seth Luttrell, Mike Blesh, that kind of thing. They ran the ball a lot. When it was clicking, it was very good. And when like toward that middle of the season, about October, they were clicking. Right, guys were healthy, right? You mentioned Oscar Attaway's been getting hurt, and then the guys behind him, they were playing well. I don't know that we're going to run the same kind of thing, right? I mean, we're not, but we're still going to run the ball. We're still going to get the ball to playmakers out of the backfield, right? It's just going to look different. And you might remember that we had, 1,000-yard rusher in the Graham Harrell, Seth Luttrell, North Texas offense V1 season, right? Like, you can still get the ball to playmakers out of this system, so to speak. And it's sort of the norm now, anyway. So
Yeah, but also I still contend that Latrell was a runner, right? He wanted to run the ball. He
yeah.
wanted to play smash mouth football. And sure, passed it around in the air raid kind of style, but um, like when you said we're going to see the ball being passed around more, I think it just depends on who's going to be under center. If it's Jace Reuter, who's been showing up in these scrimmages, I
Yeah.
don't think we're going to be running it as much. But if it's Chandler Rogers, I think we're definitely going to see a lot more, scripted runs with him, um, running the option or the pass option. So it's going to be. I don't know what to expect until the quarterback is announced. I think.
Yeah, that really is the thing, right? Like you got to figure out who the guy's gonna be. Um, and here's going back to what I was saying before, right? Like in fall camp, that's when you really know, right? Spring, everybody looks good, because nobody's getting beat up, right? They've had a whole off season to recover. Things are clicking. They may be doing a little spring practice. Everybody's just, it's whatever. Um the what you call the thing, the playbook is like simplified. It's like the early stuff, right? Everything looks kind of easy and good, and you know, like you don't know who's gonna be on the team. Right? There's the summer stuff. There's also the transfer window. I think you and I were pretty hyped about the idea of Marquise Gums in this offense, and then he goes to transfer, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and even like on the defensive side, I think was it Cam Robertson, right? He won like freshman of the year. He was on the all freshman team, I think, for the league. He looked like he was going to be interesting, and then he transfers too. So it's very difficult to kind of figure out who and what is going to be in a squad, and that's why I'm real cautious about like saying, well, obviously all these people, these guys fit into place right now, because I don't know that that's going to be the case, right? You don't know who you're going to have. I think we know what kind of system we want to have, and then you're like you said, will those guys fit in that place? What will you see the kind of thing we want to see? It's a little concerning to me that, like, say, at a place like Louisiana Tech, which I don't think it's gonna be the same thing, but just thinking about it, where like Louisiana Tech was a lot of offense and they had zero defense. Now, some of that was like injuries and they lost a bunch of people and this, that, and the other, but they had a terrible defense. I think we're trying to address that, but we lost some dudes, right, to graduation. It was always going to be a question mark on that side of the ball anyway. But now we're losing the guy that sort of steadied the ship after a couple terrible seasons. uh, so I'm still looking at that side. I haven't seen anybody come in and be like a game changing transfer or a commit that I'm like, this dude's gonna just clean up the defense because he's so good. He's gonna get so many sacks that all our guys are gonna intercept the ball, something like that. So I don't know. That's what I'm concerned about. I think we'll score the ball. I don't know if it's gonna be like 50 points a game, Western Kentucky under Bailey Zappi style, but it might, I think we'll score the ball. It's going to be something similar to what we did last couple of years under Littrell.
I mean, yeah, the hope would be like a Bailey Zappi ball, but we have to have Bailey Zappi to begin with, and I don't know if we're there yet. Um, I don't know what to expect from Reuter or from Rogers. It would be nice that we could see him with respect to Rogers. See him be a dynamic guy that can run it and pass it, sling it around, be accurate. Because on paper, that's what he was doing. I don't remember where he came from the FCS. Um,
Yeah, I know you're talking about. I forget his name,
I'm
but
blanking on
yeah,
the
it's all right. It's spring. We're all on spring time anyway.
yeah,
We don't got to know anybody's name yet.
and then Reuter with what we saw of him uh, back in 2021, just the what is going on situation with him. And then Grant Gunnell just out of the picture now. He's not even in contention for the starting job. So it's like you said, you don't know what to expect. On the defensive side of the ball, we're running 3-3-5. I think we've been running 3-3-5 for quite a bit now. We had it when Latrell first started with what's his face, intense Mike Eckler and
Yeah.
Troy Refit. Um,
Yeah, we always ran like, I mean, it's all kind of the same. There's a lot of things that are same, and basically, hey, I've said this before, that if you've come out of like a where you're base 3-4 system where you're like we have like space eater three down linemen kind of guys, or you came out of a 4-4-3, where you're like, well, we just have like like sort of single assignment kind of deal, and then we do that. That changes your like naming conventions, but a lot of things are kind of the same now, right? Like eh, that fourth one, the edge rusher, you either call him an edge or you call him like a joker or you call him like whatever. Whatever. It ends up being something like that, but it's a guy pass rusher, a dude that's gonna
Yeah,
be yeah,
you got a guy on the outside that's either going to rush or it's going to be more of a hybrid guy that's going to cover in the
yeah.
pass game. You got to be more dynamic, and especially when you got small guys or slow guys, then you got to use what you have to and kind of hide those vulnerabilities. Um, yeah, I can't speak too much about it, but at least Rich Tashada or Tahada,
Yeah, Ridge
what am I
Tejada.
saying?
Yeah,
Tahada
yeah,
coming
yeah.
back. I liked him from the get go. He showed out. Obviously, he's not terribly big, but he's scrappy and he gets the job done. There were times when you get really frustrated, but I think he's solid for the defense.
But yeah, like I mean, he was young, right? He came in, and then I think we talked about this at the time where he made some plays because he was out of position. Like
Yeah,
he got beat, and they were like, "Oh, easy touchdown, throw it over the top," and then he made up the ground and then made a play. Um, that's good. That's like we want people to make a play, but sometimes make a play means that you're out of position. Um, Good corners, great corners. Nobody throws that way because they're always in the right spot. The guy ain't open, right? So they don't even try to fit it in the window. Sometimes you're making interceptions because they're like, "Oh, we can beat this guy." So that's always the problem with the secondary, right? To me, I'd rather not ever get any interceptions and just get like, 20 sacks a game, right? That's the ideal formation of football to me. But you take what you can get. To me, do we have a pass rush that can get to a Memphis, that can get to an SMU, that can get to the teams that we play, right? To Cal. That's the big question, right? There's no more like Southern misses. There's no more. I mean, can't even think who we played. No more. There's still a Rice, I guess. I don't remember who we played on the season. But Conference USA was a little weak. Right? Let's be honest. We're all in football. It's like the opposite of basketball. It's a little weak. And you know that was one of the frustrations we had. Like you can't win this league. Then it means a lot of stuff. It means that maybe you're not that good of a team, not that good of a coach, et cetera, et cetera. Right? That I'm thinking about that. Do we have the guy that could do that? I liked some of those guys that we had out there. There were questions about the caliber of recruit we got, like you were saying. FCS, do we want to be getting FCS transfers? What about P5 transfers? Isn't that the way to go? But I thought they played well. A lot of these dudes were big time contributors for us, especially late in the season. And it was all good. I think it proved to be that the dudes coaching the defensive side of the ball had an idea of what they were doing. Who would have
yeah.
thought?
And starting off slow, starting off poorly, bad showing against SMU, but it turned out that while we didn't have an intense pass rush, we did have a good run defense. And I think that really kept us in the game throughout the season. And I'm hoping that continues, that type of showing continues into this season. I don't expect an amazing pass rush. I don't think we're going to be getting those 20 sacks a game, but if we can end up being a bend don't break, I mean, I don't think that's the end of the world, right? Asking going against these teams like SMU and like Memphis has had better years, but going
Yeah.
against those kind of
I
teams.
mean, yeah, like we couldn't stop Memphis's run game for a little bit. We stopped their pass game. Like, I thought that was I'm trying to remember, in November stuff. Like just I'm going down the list right here. I like Kevin Wood. I think he's gonna be doing some good stuff. I think Jalen Smith is interesting. The guy I think you were thinking of was Sifa Leota. He was good. He was a transfer. He's from the area, right? He's a ULIS kid. Um, I want to see what some of these other dudes do. Yeah, I think there's room for improvement there. We lost the defensive line guy, but I like Mason Richards. He was good. Um, Everybody else, they did some good things here and there, and I'm wondering, like, do we have enough to make plays consistently, right? It, anybody on here, you're like, oh man, look at him, he's 6'5", 270, he's gonna be a dom. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, right? We need to see them in play, and that's what I'm hoping for. I think the system's gonna change a little bit. I linked for everyone, in case you're wondering, on the Mean Green Nation forum.meangreennation.com, to some things that our coordinator has done previously at Iowa State and some of the ways they attack teams. Because Iowa State had similar problems, right? Like, okay, we can't get giant space eater defensive linemen, or that are just going to go wreck shop. And, but we can get some guys that can play some football that are undersized or this, that, and the other, right? And so they attacked it with scheme and everybody playing together and being disciplined and all that good stuff, right? And it worked out for them. They were a very good defense, and they still are a very good defense, using the tools they have. And North Texas, same situation, right? We can get good talent here, but we can't always trust it. We can't get necessarily four NFL guys on the front line. We can sometimes get NFL talent in here, right? Like the twins that went out to UCLA. I think probably one or both of them is going to get a shot in the NFL. It happens. We've had a Hamilton. Hambone was out here. He's got a shot in the NFL. But it's very rare to say, all right, four of these dudes are going to be in the league, right? It's not Alabama, it's not Clemson, it's not Georgia, and that's fine, right? So you need guys that can play at this level. Looking down this list, I don't know that it's all these 12 of these dudes, but I like Rod Brown. I thought Mason Richards did some good things. We need some guys that can tackle, get some pressure on the offensive line,
Yeah.
stop a run, all those basic things, basic
Mhm.
football things.
I think if you're talking about the front six, front seven, I think those two guys are you're gonna be your key contributors.
Yeah, it has to start there, and I think that that's. Yeah, I mean, it's football. Like, well, you got to run the football, you got to stop the run. Uh, like running the football is not as big of a thing anymore, but I think there are crucial moments when you need to get a stop. Right, like you look at like the Eagles, Philadelphia Eagles, and then their 4th and 1 situation, right? And that whole cheating, pushing the running back, the quarterback over. It's crucial. It changes the whole offense, right? Because you're like, well, everybody likes to get to 3rd and short and 4th and short anyway, right? But you know that we have a guaranteed 3rd and 1. That's money in the bank. Let's do this every time, right? It changes the whole thing. So now the defense, like, well, we can't say, you know what, getting the stop on 3rd and 1 is a win, right? Because they're always gonna get the edge there. And I think in college football, it's very similar with almost every quarterback being a dynamic, able to run, at least do a little basic little option thing. It's harder to get a stop on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, that kind of stuff. And I think that you need guys that can step up in those big situations. Right, it's important in those situations. But for the most part, if you can get a pass rush, then I think you're winning. That's really what it is.
Yeah, I got nothing to add there. I just hope we see some of that with this new regime.
Yeah. Um, who else is there? Let's talk about some dudes. Lorenzo Thompson, I think he's coming back. I think he showed some good stuff. John Davis is hopefully healthy. He had that injury first game of the year against SMU. He was out. Then Ridge Tejada stepped up, like you're saying. Ridge Tejada is 5'8". John Davis is 6'1". So if you can get a John Davis back, and I think maybe Lorenzo Thompson's going to be the other corner, stepping in for Deshaun Gaddy, right? It's going to be like the boundary corner. um, then you'll have maybe three corners that you like, that you feel like you could play, right? Because I mean, John Davis was the number one. Ridge Tejada was like he stepped in. And he was that guy for a lot of the year. So maybe you got Thompson, Davis, Ridge. There's three corners that you feel good about, right? Maybe even to push one another, but also you can say, you know what, it's they got three good receivers. We can put these guys on here and kind of stop anybody, right? Situational things. I feel good about that as much as you can feel good about that kind of thing. How about yourself?
I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm not a defensive guy, so I can't speak to it. But having that rotation in there, they don't get tired. They don't have to be in there 100% of the snaps and stuff. That will give you some flexibility on what to do on the inside with your safeties, your linebackers, being able to if you've got the confidence on the outside that they're going to give your linemen or your edge rushers time to get to the quarterback or at least disrupt the play, then
Yeah.
that's perfect. Um, a 5'8" guy doesn't sound good on paper, but a guy like Ridge has been disruptive, and so that's good, right?
I mean,
Eh,
he can jump. He can jump,
Yeah.
and like I said, like UTSA, they caught a pass over him on that final drive, and full credit to him. But that really wasn't the play. I mean, that was the play that won the game. But the play that really changed the game was the throw to the tight end, right? So I mean,
Mhm.
there's a lot. He got a couple interceptions and or an interception that game, and he
Yeah.
almost
I
had
mean,
another one.
he's a dwarf. He's quick in small spaces.
Yeah. So I mean, I mean, look at what is it? The safety. What are the safeties? Oh, safeties. Um, Here's the thing: is like there's gonna be more safeties, right? It's 3-3-5. They're gonna have like that hybrid one. It's like two safeties that sort of play closer to the line. But you want them. The more flexible you are in football, the more you can play, the more things you can do, right? If you can stop the run, but you can also fly out and play the, quarters coverage, and you're not a liability out there, and you can man up sometimes too. The more things that they can do, right? Like the offense doesn't know what you're doing, right?
Or you
So
can blitz him.
yeah, yeah, and more you can, bring the pain that way, the better you are. So you'll see North Texas putting a lot more safeties on there. Nick Nakwasaw, he was an FCS transfer. I had talked to him before he came to North Texas last year. Then he got hurt, right? So he was out the year. He was a guy that they were expected to play a lot more, but he didn't, right? We ended up playing the kid from Citadel, right? That ended up being a thing. I liked Logan Wilson. I still like him. He's a junior. He made a lot of plays. I think, I think big things are in store for him. You can see him on some of the videos. He's back, and that makes me feel good. And I think some of the other dudes, I think they got some time. They either have time under the belt in this, like in the program, or have played previously. But like I think Nick Nakwasaw, I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. And then Logan Wilson are two, I think, guys to watch. And again, it's way early. We're April. They don't play till September. You know what I mean? You got a lot of time for good and bad things to happen. I think didn't Quentin Gray play a little bit? That's basically the area to watch because this system we're asking a lot from our safeties. We want more safeties. We also lost some dudes that played a lot and did some things for us. So we need them new guys to step up to at least give us production that we got from the guys last year, right? And whatever you think of Gaddy, he started a lot of games and he was highly rated, right? I say that just because I know there was criticism of him here and there.
It
But
wasn't
yeah,
me, was it?
I mean, it probably was you sometimes.
It was me.
Who do we?
I
I
mean,
mean,
he
go
did
ahead.
deserve some criticism
Yeah,
when I mean, as against SMU, he was
he
getting
got
beat
smoked.
hard. Yeah, and
Yeah,
Rasheed Rice was ragging on him on the field and stuff, and um, I mean, he deserved it, but he did improve. We had that good run towards the end of the season. That's production there. That he's a starter. When you lose a starter, guy like him, guy like Katie Davis, those are that's production. Those are numbers that somebody's got to make up, and the numbers that those two guys put together, that's three guys probably normally. We didn't have an elite team, but we did have a lot of guys with a lot of production, and so you gotta make it up somehow.
yeah. So, let's talk about those wide receivers a little bit. I think Tommy Bush is still on the squad. I think that's still a thing. I think Jair Shorter's still on the squad. And I know Jair Shorter, he's one of those guys I'm thinking about when I'm saying like, hey, they might, take him away or it might change. You never know. Because I think he was heavily recruited by other squads and teams and stuff. They're like, hey, you've caught nothing but touchdowns. You're 6'2", you're 218 pounds. We can get you on a squad. We can let you go do some things in like our Tennessee like system. We just run go
Yeah,
routes
I
all
mean
day.
he would have had more touchdowns if the ball was accurate.
They say he put it in his hands where he can catch it. That's crazy. I mean, we talked about Shorter, right? We got some hot sports opinions about him too, because I think he's good enough and he wants to play in the league, right? He he has enough, right? He has the tools to get open. He's big enough to do that kind of thing to get into the league, but I think he has to be better at catching those like not comfortable balls, right? We talked about some of the, he didn't make some of the great some catches. He didn't help out his quarterback always, and that's maybe a knock on him. But I mean, like I said, like those are pro level things to talk about, right? High level football stuff. For what he's doing right now, we'd love to keep him out here catching touchdown passes. Um, I'm going looking at the roster is what I'm doing. So Tommy Bush, he apparently is back, right? He's had the worst luck health wise in his time. He's a senior. You might remember he went to Georgia. North Texas recruited him. He went to Georgia. Came back. He's out here playing. Tommy Bush, Damon Ward. I like Damon Ward. He did a lot of great catches. A lot used his hands. He's very smooth. Classic wide receiver kind of stuff. I like what he has. He's big. He's like 200 pounds, 6 foot. Jamori Macklin. Everybody loves him. He's out of Kirkwood. Shout out Kirkwood, Missouri. Um, uh,
Yeah, I think Macklin so far is my favorite.
Yeah, everybody loves him. I mean, he's number 9, right? And he's out there catching go routes. We've seen, Austin on throw him the ball a couple times, and we're like, there he is. There's the guy. He's the guy that we think can be a game breaker. He's a little short. He's 5'11", 185 pounds, a little slighter, but he can fly, and you want him to have the ball in his hands a ton, right? He can
Yeah,
do some things.
and he progressed well through the season. He's not a um I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Slot guy plays for Tampa or played for Tampa. I'm in trouble.
I don't know who are you talking about.
uh, oh my god.
I'm gonna let you hang out here
Okay.
all by
In
yourself.
everybody's yelling at me because he's like the most popular UNT player in the last.
Oh,
That's that's
okay.
fun.
I know you're talking about. Okay, but what?
Um,
How about you say his name?
leaving me out to dry.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave you
Anyways,
out there.
he played running back. He was a shifty guy. He can beat people running routes or dump it to him, and he's gonna break for 50 yards and a touchdown. That's not the kind of guy that Macklin is. You were saying that Damon's more smooth. Macklin is smooth. He can get behind guys with his route running, and so I like the way he plays, and I'm thinking he's gonna be pretty productive.
Yeah, I mean, you still haven't said his name, and so I'm just kind of waiting on you to
Whose
to do
name?
that. um, I'm not gonna tell you the answer of the daycare, so I'm gonna let you think about that or do some googling while you're
The
doing some
Google.
googling.
No, I need to learn. Remember,
But it's still the preseason stuff. So we liked him. Rod Burns is back. He should be back, I think he is. He did a lot of stuff. He's a little shorter too. He became like the number one receiver a little bit for Ani. That's the thing about receivers, right? And quarterbacks. There's always a relationship, and a guy sometimes becomes the guy for a quarterback that's maybe not for another guy, right? That happens. Whatever. So you never know, but it could happen. I think who else is out there? Detravian Brown. I think there's a certain subset after that top level, right? Your shorter, your Burns, your Macklin, Ward. Even you put Tommy Bush in this next category of guys. You're like, I've seen him do a couple things a couple times, and I like to see them do a lot more of that, right? But
I liked him when he committed. I was excited about him and
yeah,
Austin Ogunmakin when they. I think they both came in at the same time, and then Austin
yeah,
left.
yeah.
I was really excited for him, but he's got potential. I think he can do better. He's a taller guy, right?
Who you're talking about? Detravian Brown. He's 6 foot.
Detravian Brown.
Yeah, he's 6 foot.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah. All right, so I'm gonna give you the answer because you still hadn't said it. You're talking about Jalen Darden. Is that what you're talking about?
Jalen Darden.
Okay. All right.
I knew it.
This is the worst. You're the worst. Um.
Mean Green
All
Nation, man.
right. So yeah, Rod Burns last year caught 40 passes, right, for 600 yards. Jair Shorter caught 23, and he had 628 yards and 11 touchdowns. Like half of his catches were
That's
touchdowns.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So then this is the part that's going to change, right? Gums and Jake Roberts were our third and fourth leading receivers, and they caught a combined about 60 passes, which is the combined number of Burns and Shorter, and they combined for 8 scores. You know, what I mean, they were a 1-2 punch. Macklin only caught 16 balls, 380 yards, averaging 20 yards a grab. And he had 2 scores. Um, Shorter they were just throwing the ball deep, right? He had like 30 yards a catch. That's what it turned out to be. But I really like what Damon Ward did. Jordan Smart played a little bit. He had 21 catches. I feel like that's too many catches, but he had 21 catches. And then you go down the. I don't see like Kalen Horton anymore on the roster. I don't know what happened there. Um, and there's a lot. The rest of it is like it's like McMillan. I don't know what's happening with him. He's still listed on the chart here, but you get to a point where it's kind of like, you know what? You can always find a receiver. And I don't mean
Yeah,
to be dismissive, but you can.
but I think it's also indicative the receivers you're naming after Shorter, Burns, Ward, Gums, Jake the Snake. Um,
Well,
these are
I
all
can I can name receivers. I don't know if you can name.
they're all inside receivers, right? They're
Yeah,
that's where our production was coming from because that's where Ani was looking, and he would Smart would have a streak of games where he was productive. Burns would have a streak of games when he was productive. Ward, same thing. These are all inside receivers that's where Ani could go comfortably without throwing an interception or overthrowing Shorter um, and or
yeah.
Tommy Bush. That's the frustration, right? That these guys were getting open, but he couldn't get it to them, or it
I
was
didn't get
wild.
to him.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so we were focusing on those inside receivers. That's why they were so productive. So I think that might shift, um, because we don't have that Jalen Darden. It'll just be whoever steps up, and if Reuter gets better, he doesn't throw away the ball or throw it into the stands, or Rogers is in there. I think that might change that dynamic, but I can't predict what can happen.
yeah. So in those, like I said, classic North Texas air raid. The version that I think everybody remembers a lot was 2018. Rico Bussey Jr. Was sort of like your analog to a Jair Shorter, right? Your big outside receiver. Jalen Guyton played a lot of outside receiver too, right? He's not that big, but he was a deep threat, and they moved around a little bit. And then Darden and Mike Lawrence were your inside receivers, right? A little bit more shifty, catch it in the middle. So Bussey had 68 grabs, Guyton had 54 grabs, Darden had 48, Mike Lawrence had 32, right? And then throw in Kelvin Smith and a couple other guys in there.
But I think all four of them probably had over 400 yards each, right?
Yeah, I mean, Bussy had 1,000 yards, Guyton had 800 yards, Darden had 500, Mike Lawrence had 400. Like your outside receiver guys are those are your big guys. But your safety, your blanket, your first down getters, so the little short guys or little underneath dudes. Um, you know, I don't know how they're gonna design it because that was also like 5 years ago, right? And like football's changed, and everybody kind of knows what you're doing, and there's a little bit mixing it up. A lot of stuff is similar. It's not that different. Football's still about getting to fast guys, strong guys, and then giving them room to go do it, right? Um,
That's the
yeah,
way it should look like. Your outside receivers should be those 1,000 yard guys, and your inside receivers should be those 400, 500, 600, 800 if they're really good,
yeah,
and 1,000 yards if they're elite inside receiver, and they're the ones just getting open all the time, beating the guys. I can see that 1,000 yard receivers on the inside if they're super elite NFL bound. But yeah, outside receiver guys got to have those 1,000 yard guys.
yeah. If you think about like the air raid playbook, right? Like you think about your classic mesh, right? Like 92, right? You got two guys running a mesh route, and I'm doing it right here. For you just listening, I'm drawing it. They just cross over about 5 to 8 yards down the field, right? And that's just 5 to 8 yards down the field. And then what typically happens, you throw like the outside, it's either a corner route, you can tag it, maybe it's a post route to change it up, or sometimes a wheel route behind it, but it's typically a little corner route. And so that's like 15 to 12, yards out there, right? That's already more. If you just throw the if you throw the mesh and it's caught and he just turns up and falls down for a yard, you're like, all right, we got 8 yards, right? 9 yards. If you throw the other one, it's 12 yards, right? 15 yards already. And then add to the rest of it, like maybe the guy slips, breaks the tackle, and he turns up the field and he's already down the field. Nobody can catch him, right? A gyre shorter, he's gone. Um, that's kind of how it happens. Now you have your special players that can play the slot, and then they can go crazy, right? You think about Rico Bussey caught the mesh route, turned it up the field against UTSA, and scored a touchdown, right? long story
Never,
short, you put your
never forget.
player, yeah, you put your best players in positions to score, and then they go score. Right? It doesn't matter where they are; they could do it from wherever. The football system is about making sure that they're maximized. While because obviously we're gonna throw it to that guy, but you want to make them keep them honest enough. So you're like, hey, I will throw it to Jake Roberts. Don't he'll be open. He'll catch a touchdown, but I want to throw it to Jared Short. Anyway, so I think about this. Like Tommy Bush has a lot of potential, a lot of talent, but can he make, you know, 70 grabs in a season, for 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, and then a bunch of first downs, right? In being the number one guy, being, catching tough catches in traffic against the best corner. Can he do that? We haven't seen that yet. We've seen flashes of it here and there. So we don't know, right? Damon Ward, I liked what he did, but like he doesn't have like the raw talent where you're just like, oh, this dude, he's clearly an NFL guy, right? You're just like, he's showing something. He's out here working. I see you, Damon Ward. It's like that, right? I mean, like he was doing some good
Right.
things, but it's not just kind of Macklin's a burner, but can he do it? He caught 21 last year. Is that what I said? Can
Yeah,
he get to
21, 30,
40?
something like that.
Yeah, well, he got 16. Jeez. Can he catch more than that, right? Can he do like a Mike Lawrence style, in his last year, caught 32 of them, right? Can he do Mike Lawrence in the other year, caught 62 passes? That was crazy. Um, you know, you don't know. We don't know yet. There's a lot of that in this group, I think. I think the people glad people are excited about is Trey Cleveland came out of Texas Tech. And I think he's 6'4", he has a P5 resume, like he played there, whatever. He didn't do too much there yet, but I think people are excited about him, right? Can he do some of that for us? He's 6'4", 195. Can he do some of that for North Texas now? He's a junior also. I say that because he's been in a P5 weight room, working out, competing at that level. Like, you know what I mean? He's not freshman out of high school, right? Struggling to.
Yeah, and you got to have the X and the Z just ready to go. When you think about big North Texas passing years,
Yeah.
the first ones that come to mind is Rico Bussey and Jair Shorter. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I'm reserving because like everything's a little different, but the you're just drawing it up. You're like, let's get big, rangy wide receivers that can get down the field against press coverage and catch a 15 to 20 yard dig route, right? Can you do that? Trey Cleveland, Jair Shorter, what's his name? Tommy Bush, and then the guys that play bigger than they are, like like a Damon Ward, he's 200 pounds. Can he go down the field? Stick his foot in the ground, turn around, catch a dig route, be big enough to catch a pass down the field like that way. And then you have the other guys, can you find space, right? Can you, Rod Burns, um, Jamori Macklin, those type of dudes, right? Jordan Smart, you know, everybody's has to be able to run all the routes, but typically you kind of keep them, your inside guys, you running inside routes, outside guys running outside routes. But special players, let them do special stuff. Here's Kalen Horton. He's right here. I see him here. 5'10", 175. I don't know what they're gonna have him do, but they have him listed as a wide receiver. And then you got a whole bunch of stack of wide receivers. You need a lot of wide receivers. Will they get time? Are they gonna just be more than just pass catchers to run the routes for the number 4 quarterback? I don't know. We'll see. That there's a lot of they might be good. We don't know yet. We'll see what's up. But the names we named, those are the guys that we're excited about that we expect will be the guys that early in the season will get the first couple looks. Now, will they keep their jobs? That's the name of the game. You never know, right? Well, one of these other dudes, Quincy Kemp, you know, Richard Rockmore, will one of those guys step up? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm gonna take your job now. I mean, because there was a time when like Rod Burns was like, "Who's that guy?" I don't know him. You know?
or even Damon Wood. I mean,
Yeah,
you will have a guy that will emerge out of nowhere, which is a good thing. You got to have that competition, but I don't know. I'm being selfish. Like, yeah, the inside receivers are important, but we got to have that big guy outside. And we wouldn't be talking to about Jair Shorter if he hadn't caught 13 touchdowns, right? If it's
yeah,
if you just look at his stat line of what was it, 300 and something yards, then he would be off of anybody's radar. But he's getting force fed because he's able to make those plays, and he's got 13 touchdowns on his resume just for one season. Um, so it just goes back to the quarterback. Who's back there, and it will change the dynamic of the team.
Yeah. So I mean, it's that simple, and I think that complicated. I think that this system and this coach are going to make it easier. We're going to see a lot of stuff there. There's sometimes that where you get like inflated stats in like the air raid because teams are still throwing. They're just throwing maybe a couple series after where other teams wouldn't. Maybe at the end of a half where other teams would just run the ball out and they're like, oh, let's throw it, and they get like a 30-yard gain or something like that. And you're like, oh, just kind of inflates the stats a little bit. But those are easy to see and easy to account for.
Yeah, and I don't think we had that at all because I think we ran it 60% of the time, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't hate that. I don't. I think it was good for what North Texas was trying to do. There's lots of ways to play football, and I think in some ways running the ball in this time and era was zagging while everybody else was zigging, right? I think there was a lot of good there, but I think you you still have to execute, right? If you're gonna be a throwing team, you have to be great at throwing, and when you do run the ball, it has to be effective, or else you're not gonna be a good football team. If you're going to be a running team, I mean, even Army throws the ball, Navy throws the ball a couple times, right? When you throw the ball, you got to be very effective. Otherwise, you're not going to be a very good football team. Now, there's some small outliers here and there that like we don't ever need to throw the ball because we're just a pure running team or something. But even those Nebraska teams of 1995 and even those like early 2000s teams that ran the option, they were still throwing the ball, right? I think I was gonna say Scott Frost. I think it was Scott Frost. He was out there throwing the ball, you know, tossing it around. You need that. You need to do that. And I don't know that North Texas did enough of that in the moments we needed them to do. Because they did do that. Right? They ran the ball. They threw the ball well. Got through for he set the record, single season touchdown passing record. Uh,
Yeah, but there
Austin on
was
it.
I think there was just a lack of trust that he would get the job done when it was needed to be done.
That's really what it was, right? And I said when it needs to happen against UTSA in the championship game, right? Where could you stand tall, throw the ball? Late in the game against UAB, could you stand tall, throw the ball, right? You lose the UAB game 41-21 in that one, and Austin Ani throws what do you do for 159 yards, sub 50% passing, against UTSA sub 200 yards, right? 194 yards, sub 50% passing in that one, 48%, threw a couple picks. And then against Boise State, he threw a little bit better. He completed 53% of his passes, but still threw a couple picks, only 238 yards. So, yeah, you threw for 325 against UTSA in October. That was fun. 322 against Western in October. That was fun. But also 180, 196. There's a couple of those you know, we need you to be able to throw the ball because the running game ain't happening, or we need you to just, execute, be big now. And it didn't happen. So it's yes, it's great that he threw 5 touchdown passes against Florida International, but he after that point, he only threw 5 touchdowns in the last 5 games. Last 4 games, I'm sorry. UAB, UTSA, Boise State. 3 of those games are huge games. You beat UAB, you still keep a chance to win. Um, I think it was to clinch bowl eligibility in that one. And then you do 2 against Rice, but in the championship game, only 1 against UTSA when we needed more, and he threw 2 interceptions. And then the bowl game, threw a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Right, 4 picks, 5 touchdowns in the final 4 games. Sort of erased the 5 interceptions, the 5 touchdowns against FIU. Now, I don't mean to pick on Austinani and any of that in that way, but just to talk about because when you look at whole county numbers, like he threw for 3,500 yards and 33 touchdowns last year. And dude was slinging it out there. It's like yes and no. Yes, yes he was, but then he wasn't, right? Um,
Swinging it to the other team.
yeah, there was a lot of that. 15 interceptions. So when we're looking at like what is North Texas going to be this year? What kind of thing are we looking for? I mean, I'm looking for some outstanding kind of numbers, like some crazy numbers, right? I'm looking for where's this dude from Washington State? Uh there it is, Cam Ward.
I still think we're gonna run it more than we pass.
What? Yeah, you crazy man. So Cam Ward, and it was a little bit different, right? Because he was new to the squad, but he also threw for 3,200 yards. He threw for 23 touchdowns against 9 interceptions, which is not super great, but he did it. Uh, at Washington State, where the dude already had like a squad kind of doing the thing. Um, Cam Ward was throwing like 50 touchdown passes. I forget what it is, but like what I'm hoping for is that, right? At Incarnate Word, our dude, right, Eric Morris, built a system where like, hey, 33 touchdown passes, that's a lot. And then, oh, now it's 40, now it's 50, now it's 60. Um, I'm looking at the passing records because I can't find it right now. But you know what I mean? Like, so it's where we are in North Texas, right? I thought that was kind of be the case, and we sort of built that. We got talent. There's lots of stuff happening everywhere. Um, but you look at what they built, right? They got to the point where here it is. Lindsey Scott, right, for Incarnate Word last year, 60 touchdown passes. That was the record, right? A few seasons ago, right, it was like 35, 33, whatever it was. That was, hey, that's pretty good. That's pretty good there, for UIW throwing 30 touchdown passes in a season. This guy, is setting records. But they blew that out of the water. You sort of set the standard and then you bump it up every time, right?
Yeah,
I'm
and
saying, let's break Mason Fine's records. That's what I'm getting at.
yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and you and I discussed how Mason Fine was breaking his own career records at UNT, and we're like that should be just average. That should be a normal thing here. And then with Ani also breaking records again, just keep adding to it that should be the norm. Where we went from not being able to beat bad teams to consistently beating bad teams, um, being challenged by average teams, but winning more often than not against the average teams, and then struggling against good teams. And I'm wanting us to get to the next step and compete against those really good teams, being able to show that we not only have the talent because Latrell was bringing in the talent, but it was obvious that they weren't a fit to the system because we never saw these guys again. He had several number one recruiting seasons, but they were collecting a paycheck, and then you wouldn't see those guys perform on the field, and that was a frustrating thing. That's why ultimately we saw him leave. And I'm hoping with this next regime they bring in the guys that fit his system, the Morris system, and um, it was exciting to watch it incarnate wordplay when they came to Apogee. He'll find those shifty guys. I don't know if we're going to do that this season. Take the next step of what we saw last season. But if we see more than 30 touchdown passes, I think that's the step in the right direction.
I'm bullish on that. I think if Asanani was out here throwing 35 and we can throw 40 at minimum, and then we can get 40. Now, I mean, we because there's talented wide receivers out there, and then like you get guys that played, like Reuters played, um, what's his face, Rogers played, all these guys, right? They all play. It's not like freshmen out here. So I think it sort of eliminates that thing. So here, going back to what I was saying, right? John Copeland, that's who I was thinking of. He played against North Texas in that UIW team. He threw 22 touchdown passes in a season. That was the record, right? Um, the next guy, Cam Ward, the guy that ended up going to Washington State with Eric Morris, he threw 47 in 2021. Blew that record, just doubled it, right? And that was so 22 with the team getting together, like building this team from scratch. Like, I know you played cornerback, but now you're a wide receiver. You're going to do this. We're going to set this all up. Once they started going, and you said getting guys into the system, I don't think that he has to do that here, right? There's guys on the squad. Maybe we said Macklin. You got this Cleveland dude, shorter guys that can play. We didn't even talk about the running backs yet. There's guys that can play already on this squad, so it's not like we're gonna go, throw for 3,000 yards and 22 touchdowns with guys that never played in the system before. They kind of done it before. They're talented. Anyway, Cam Ward 47 touchdowns, right? And then this last dude, Lindsey Scott, threw 60 touchdowns, right? That's what I'm talking about, like pushing it beyond, like what's ridiculous to a certain point. And yes, that was this Kenny dude. They kind of took the system, but he was taking an already well-oiled machine, right? Incarnate word football and taking it to the next level. So I think the North Texas is closer to being that than not. Like the Mason Fine years, Seth Luttrell years, that was a little bit like, all right, let's see what we can do. And so him throwing 30 touchdown passes in a season, that was like, okay, that's this level right here. You know, if we get a 5-star quarterback, 4-star quarterback, get him out here and keep the next thing going with wide receivers that are, you know, even more legit. Let's keep it going. That's exciting to me.
So you're thinking the number one recruit from Kansas in the year of our Lord 20, what was it, 18?
I mean, I don't know.
You're,
I think it.
you're
I think it.
going with him?
I mean, it sort of happened, right? Like a Tommy Bush, who was I think he was a 4-star guy. He was considering North Texas, and he's like, all right, I'm not going there, and he decides to go to Georgia, right? So obviously you miss out on that, but that's the classic thing where like you're in Dallas, he's gonna come back to Texas and be like, yeah, you know what? I want to play here because I'm closer, but it didn't work out for me there. I won't come back. Now it's sort of hit or miss. He's still talented, right? But obviously it didn't work out. Jalen Guyton was a similar kind of thing, right? Jalen Guyton's in the NFL now. There's nothing wrong with getting a guy the last couple seasons of his career, as he's trying to figure things out, and it worked out. The Jalen Guyton thing worked out for North Texas, very well. So
Yeah,
I'm open for something like that for like a Tommy Bush or whoever else
yeah.
at
Tommy
Cleveland.
Bush is talented. I go back to the Ani situation where I don't think we just could get it to Tommy Bush like we could have. We couldn't get
I'm
it to Shorter
open.
like we could have. So if Reuter is an upgrade, Morris is an upgrade, I think those
Yeah,
things will be great. But as it stands, as I'm looking at reports coming out of scrimmage, things are looking weird there. And I have confidence in the running game. Like that is tried and true. There's nothing special about changing regimes and
yeah. Keeping
inheriting
it.
a running scheme. I don't think. Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's no concern there for me. I can stand by that running back squad and say they're going to be great.
Yeah.
Um, our wide receivers are talented, but can we get them the ball? That's where I don't feel as confident.
I mean, yeah, it very well could be that that we're in the same situation, right? That like,
Four
wait, is
years in a
that?
row.
Hold on, wait. We're sitting there against Cal. Got to get that binoculars out and look. Is that's Chase Ruder? Chase Ruder's coming out. Didn't we do this a couple seasons ago? I don't know. It's still the funniest thing to me that he takes off his headset. That's I was like, throw the ball in bounds, Chase. I mean, look, I like Chase Ruder. He was super confident. He was what your number one quarterback. You want him to you want him to talk like that, right? He was like, he's talking some noise by SMU or whatever. I don't. It's entertainment, man. It's if he's going out there being entertaining, and and being the star quarterback, that's great. But you got to throw touchdown passes, man. And so if he can throw some touchdown passes,
He
I
did.
will root for some Jace Ruder.
He just threw them to the other team.
I mean, so like again, I think you said right. Grant Gunnell's like nowhere part of it. The guy is a classic star quarterback looking dude, right? 6'6", 220,
Kind of like
big
Jace Reuter.
arm. I mean, Grant Gunnell, I'm talking about. But yeah,
No,
Chase Ruder's 6'3", 228. It's the same kind of deal. It's like, man, this guy is super tall, man. I'll let my daughter date him. You get a lot of that talk about these dudes.
I mean,
And then
one
they
went
go
to
out there.
North Carolina, the other one went to Arizona. There's the same pedigree, same background is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they looked the part, right? I know we used to have a coach here that was like, I like a quarterback to look the part. And then, it didn't quite work out. I think JD he has some talent. Stone Earl, everybody likes Stone Earl. We've seen him run the ball more than we've seen him throw the ball. And then Chandler Rogers had a nice completion percentage at ULM, right? That's his claim to fame. He can run the ball a little bit. He can run. We like Jason Bean. We're fans of the Bean. But you know, I don't know. Like I know some people are like, man, he look what he did at Kansas. We could have had some of that. And I'm like, I don't know, yeah, what he he was at Kansas, did a
Yeah,
lot of the same things. He did a lot of the same things he did at North Texas, where it was a little hit or miss.
yeah.
I mean,
Anakin better than Ani, to be honest.
yeah, I mean, there was that camp like, well, Ani can throw the ball far. And sometimes those interceptions. Jason Bean sometimes throws incompletions. Throws a lot of incompletions. Like, which one do I want? I don't know. It was not really a choice that anybody was excited about. We've rehashed this again. All right, quickly. Akaka Ragsdale, he's back. Right, at least he's listed. Quaylen Farrar, local guy. Right, that's the guy everybody's talking about. South Oak dude, and everybody's excited about him. He's a tiny dude, 5'6". Like he carries the football like that. Like he's just holding it. It just he runs with it. And
Very fast.
yeah, he sticks it in the helmet like a little giant style.
I
Just
like
runs through
Coiler
everybody.
Farrar. He's fun.
Yeah. I mean, look. So I once had a Beagle Basset mix, right? He's a little short, he's down to the ground. I could not get to him because he's so low. It's hard to. He's quick. You know what I mean? It's hard to tackle somebody like that. Everybody knows that, right? You played like tag or something like that in like middle school. He's a little short guy. He's fast. You're like, I can't. You got to reach down. You can't get him. So Quaylen Farrar, 5'6", 190 pounds, quick as lightning, and it's hard to tackle him because you got to bend down. Hurts your back a little bit. Where'd he go? Whatever. Hurt my knees. So he's exciting and like so in a spread it out kind of system. Guys like a Farrar do well, right? DeAndre Torrey ran for a lot of yards here at North Texas. And he was quick, same kind of deal. If you got some speed in football, it turns out you can be useful. So a lot of questions for him will be: can he pass protect? Can he do some of the other things that you need a running back to do sometimes? But in situational stuff, you know, they'll just they'll just give him the ball and then you go run. I'm excited about him. He's a redshirt freshman this year, so he's had time in the weight room. He's had time in a college football environment. He's been around a lot of good running backs, so I'm excited about what happens there.
Yeah, I think he'll have a few big, big games this year.
Yeah, and then you still got Ayo Deji. He was a ball. He did a lot of good stuff. I loved his running style. He was a little bit shifty. He caught some stuff out the backfield. Isaiah Johnson, same thing. Like a lot of guys, same thing. I'm not gonna. You remember like that five? They had like five running backs, right? Everybody was good, and then they all got injured. Oscar Attaway, obviously 6 foot 222,
Literally
big
all of
dude.
them.
Yeah, they all got injured. It was ridiculous. Isaiah Johnson got injured against UTSA after scoring a winning touchdown. They all can run. I think it's going to be a different look now. So, is there enough? Your question, right? Is there enough for everybody? Yeah, I think that your coach's job, offensive coordinator's job, is to get the ball to playmakers and to say, you used to be there like, you know what? Let's design a system where we can get more wide receivers out here, right? And we'll throw the ball to guys in space. If you want to line up with two running backs and still spread the ball out and still run some air raid, you can do that. You can throw the ball to Oscar Attaway. You can throw the ball to Quaylen Farrar, and the touchdowns count the same. It doesn't. They don't have to get it from the power I formation. You know what I mean? For it to count,
Yeah,
you can get any kind of way. Yeah.
you're talking Mike Leach football now, and that gets me excited.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the deal. So like, yeah, but yeah, that was the big thing. He's like, why am I gonna line up, turn around, hand it to him? He's gonna get 2 yards. I can throw it for 2 yards, and it's the same, right? So the thing
Mhm.
is, like, can Quaylen Farrar catch the ball? I don't know. Yeah, but that's the next step, right? But I sure do like the idea of Oscar Attaway in space, wherever that space is generated, right? Is it because we had great kick out blocks in the power G formation and he got ahead of steam and he could turn up and then he has the safety one on one, he makes a miss and he scores a touchdown? Yeah, that sounds great to me. Do I like it in a like him coming out a little shoot route out the backfield? Well, we have four wide receivers running, 92, and he catches a little ball in space, and then he can get a little head of steam going against the 5'8" corner. I like that too. Both of those sound great. Let's do them both, whatever it means, right? Let's score some touchdowns using Oscar Attaway, using Isaiah Johnson, using BK Jackson, all these dudes, whatever it is, man. The touchdown North Texas is all we care about, right? That's all that matters. If it's
You're
Stone
getting me
Earl,
excited now because
yeah,
the play you just described was, I think, one that Ayo scored.
yeah, dude. I mean, I can't even remember his name now, but like, we had running backs coming out the backfield. We threw the ball to Jeff Wilson that first year. We threw the ball to the other his backup. I forget his name slipping, but he had a little. I said you can run the wheel route behind that mesh 92 wheel. We ran that against Rice, and I think I did a cut up on that. You can score that. You got a running back that can run a wheel route. The dude, can you imagine Oscar Attaway running like a freight train down the sideline? You just toss him a little ball over the top, he catches it, and maybe you can catch him, but can you bring him down? You know, the world may never know. And that way, you don't need a Varkey's gums because we got an Oscar Attaway doing Varkey's gums type things, right? He's running in space, big freight train type dude. Can't stop him. That's the same thing. Whatever. All that matters is touchdown, North Texas, right? That's it. Let's go score some touchdowns.
Yep, that's it. Wrap it up. We can go home.
There you go. Now how you doing all that? So there was the scrimmage stuff. I think you want to check the message boards for some of that other stuff there. I think I don't know. Like I said, I didn't get to watch a lot of it. I think some people said Chase Ruder looked good. Cleveland looked good. Yeah,
I was checking the Twitter. That's where I was getting my information, and yeah,
yeah,
I mean, Jace Ruder on paper was the one completing passes, was the one throwing touchdowns. I think what I had read, a quote that I read was that Eric Morris was frustrated that when Rogers was on the field, I think they were running it too much, and I think that meant he was, if he was running, I don't know the exact plays, right? If he was
yeah,
running an option, he wasn't passing it, he was tucking and running,
yeah,
or maybe he was scrambling and running. I don't know what it all meant, but on paper he had five passes, I think, five pass attempts, which is not enough to get any kind of reasonable understanding
yeah,
of what he can do.
yeah. Well, I'll say this: we know that Jace Ruder can win a quarterback competition. He's done it before. Now,
He's a winner.
yeah. I've in my time as a terrible basketball player and a terrible football player, I've been called a practice all star. So I know it's a thing. You can do that. It's a thing you can be. Um, yeah. So like, I mean, whatever. Like again, I don't care who wins it. I think competition is good. If Jace Ruder, if having Chandler Rogers in the group makes JD Head a better quarterback, so much so that he again leads to touchdown North Texas, then hey, JD Head is the dude, right? And I'm a fan. If it means that it's Jace Ruder, it's Jace Ruder time. Touchdown North Texas, all that matters.
I
Uh,
want. I'm gonna root for Stone Earl just because he's got the best name
yeah,
in the
Stone.
nation.
It's
Stone
Stone
Earl.
Earl. Yeah. I
That's
think
right.
we got to come up with a little theme song for that guy. But yeah, so I mean, right now, like I wouldn't worry too much about it. If you're like, oh, that you're obsessing about that. Sometimes this might be Eric Morris. Like, you know what? I think it's gonna be Chandler Rogers, but I gotta make him earn it. So I gotta, like really get on him so that way he's ready to earn it, and everybody sees that he earns it, and in fall camp. But fall camp is when it really matters, right? Everybody's gonna go to break in the summer. They're gonna go this summer. We're gonna see who cares and who's gonna lift and who's gonna take it seriously and who gets wooed by some other, programs and whatever. Fall camp is where it matters. That's where
Yeah.
you're lining up and practicing in
Well,
the heat.
the spring transfer portal I think opened today,
Yeah.
and so if we've got spots, it'd be interesting to see what we did. If we pick up a quarterback, I'm gonna be worried. I'm gonna be crying.
I mean, yeah, that's the other part too. Is that like you can't be scared of competition. Like, oh man, they got this dude. He's real good. Like, yeah, he's good. Again, for North Texas, you know what I mean? Like maybe you were the number one guy. Now you're the number two, but you can still play and be, you know, part of the team that wins. And again, touchdown North Texas, all that matters, right? Touchdown North Texas, or a win North Texas. That's what matters. That's what we're aiming for. Um, can't be scared of competition. The other team, every week they line up competition against you. They fly them in sometimes, You got to go get some.
I'm gonna be a pessimist until the day before the first game. and then we're gonna go 100%.
I feel I feel like that's gonna be. All right. So, like, in terms of how we're doing this, we'll talk a little bit more about the spring. There's some recruiting stuff to follow and care about. That looks way forward. But like I said, I think I have a little bit more time. I know I said that, and then I was super busy all week. So I'm all full of lies, I guess. But we're gonna be trying we'll try. We'll give our best shot to do a little recruiting analysis. There's the 2024 um recruiting cycle to care about, and that's the one like we're gonna be kind of following. So that way, when it comes up, we'll kind of know what's what. Right now, there's a 2024 recruiting board on mingreenation.com. I encourage you all to read that, especially it's like Twitter's like breaking down and being weird now, right? Elon Musk was banning like Substant and whatever. He might ban links to mingreenation.com. Who knows? You never know. So check out that. Build a habit to go to mingreenation.com
He's
for
probably
like
an SMU fan, to be honest.
that's probably what it is. It
Yeah,
probably
go
is.
there. You'll see stuff like what the commitment we had earlier today.
Yeah, that guy. I haven't read anything about it, but we will write things about it today. And I said, there's tornadoes and stuff over, man. You know what I mean? I'm not that committed where I'm into like trying to comfort my child. Like, hold on, I got a blog real quick about North Texas recruit. That may
Can't see my screen that I'm typing on.
somebody get this tree out of my way so I can blog. But yeah, that's what's up. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to the Minger Nation podcast. And I'm sorry if I talked over Aldo because I know Aldo's y'all's favorite. You know,
Yeah.
everybody loves the dulcet tones. And now the shadowy figure that he presents and you see on your screen.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna keep that going as a bit, or try to add some lighting to it, like this, make it a little bit more.
Tell
We
scary. You can do that. You can have the underline in your face when you talk about the losses, like, and then we had another turnover. That so I don't. It should be a fun season. I think right now, like the renewal season tickets things are ending, and then like the new ones open up for next season, like in May or June or something like that. In case y'all are thinking about getting any tickets, FYI.
yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, we're done. I'm gonna hit stop on this one. Go mean green.
go mean green.